Thank you. This was contributed. Somebody donated this to the church. And John, thank you. He brought this to me. This is a new stand. Instead of bringing the music stand over, I got a little old thing to... cute. I like it. Anyway, thank you for helping me. Thank you, John. Group of Christians were standing on the corner. They're holding a sign. The end is near. Turn yourselves around. And so a guy pulled up. An old, crotchety old man. He rolled the window down. You saw that rolled the window down. And he said to them, "You stupid Christians, get off the street. I'm tired of seeing your old signs." And he whizzed past them and went on by them. And all of a sudden they heard, boom, and then a big, big splash. Christians looked at each other and said, "I guess we should just probably put the bridge is out, turn around." I must go through like 200 jokes, and I see one that just goes pop, then it makes me laugh, and I get a little laugh out of it, then I grab it. So, yes, I didn't make these up, obviously, but I always like to share a little story. So here we go. We are in the third week of the sermon series called Nehemiah, Building the Wall. And the subtitle is With All Their Hearts, and you just heard the scripture, Nehemiah 4. So, let me just review for those who weren't here, just a quick review so we can catch us up, or just some of you that were here and still have to be reminded. The first week is Nehemiah, an ordinary guy sitting as a cupbearer to the king, sitting in Persia, in Babylon, and he was just had an everyday job serving the king. And then all of a sudden he hears that Jerusalem, his home city, even though he wasn't from Jerusalem, he'd never been there, but his family and all of his people came from Jerusalem. It was the city of God, a holy city, was in ruins, devastated. In chapter 1, he talks about, "Oh, God, please help our city, our wonderful city of Jerusalem. The temple of God is there, our holy city." And he prayed. And at the very end of the chapter 1, he goes, "I was cupbearer to the king," which kind of says, I'm just a guy, just an ordinary guy. And the sermon title for that was, It's You. Because so many times we look at something and say, somebody needs to fix that. Somebody needs to do something, and maybe it's you. And so it was that. And next thing is the second week, and it was, I just went blank. Just as blank as I could be. I probably need to stay with my scripture. The next one is when he goes to talk to the king. What a scary moment. It was called the ask. It's that line of delineation that we have where we have to, in faith, step across. Even though we don't know what's going to happen, even though we know what the outcome is, we have to step over. And that's not easy. And it wasn't easy for Nehemiah. He had a cush job serving cupbearer to the king, and now all of a sudden he's going to ask the king, "Can I go to Jerusalem?" And he asked the king, and I kind of talked about how sad he acted in the courts that day. And the king says, "Why are you acting so sad?" And so he goes on to tell the king what he needs. That big gulp, rip the Band-Aid off, take the step, let's go. And he said, "I want to go to Jerusalem. I want to go help my people." And the king not only granted him access, he gave him a pass of safe passage, a letter of safe passage. And he gave him the resources he needed, gave him the lumber and the building materials as well. So now we are here in part 3, and now he's in Jerusalem. It was so funny because, as you'll see in a minute, he was a very, very detailed kind of guy. He wrote out a lot of details. But it was so funny because right in the middle, verse 11 of chapter 3, he says, "I went to Jerusalem." Okay, that was a 920-mile trip from Babylon to Jerusalem, and it takes 6 months with their transportation or whatever, however long that takes, through the desert, but nothing happened. So I just went to Jerusalem. So he went from being a cupbearer to the king, and all of a sudden, I went to Jerusalem. Okay, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So he says, "I'm in Jerusalem," and he walked the property, but not during the day. He waits until the evening when none of the people can see him. And he takes a few friends and he walks the whole property of the wall looking at what destruction had happened and what was going to be needed to be done. And he walked the property. The next day, he went to the nobles and leaders. Now, let me say, that says that they were nobles and leaders of Jerusalem, but that was of the Hebrew people. It didn't mean they were leaders of themselves, because it sounded like Sanballat, who was, Samaritan, and Tobias, who was an Ammonite, and Geshem, who was an Arab. Those three ruled the city. They were outside the city. They were not Hebrew. They were ruling them. They were picking all the stuff out of the city that had been destroyed, taking things for themselves, ruling the people, and they were fierce and mean and vindictive to the people. Even though, nevertheless, Nehemiah went to the nobles and leaders of the Jewish people and said, I'd like to build a new wall. Let's build the wall. And they said, okay. Let's build a wall. That easy. Remember that there were, just to tell you, there were 50 to 55,000 people that came back to Jerusalem from Babylon. They came into the city. And it took a while for Nehemiah to get there, so I'm assuming that they had had this notion before to rebuild the wall. But they were under such dominance of these three mean guys that they didn't do anything. I mean, why didn't it come up before? But all of a sudden, Nehemiah says, let's rebuild the wall. And they said, let's go. And they decided to do so. Now, none of them knew about construction. I want to go to where, and I'm going to read this a little bit, just a little bit. Just listen to me for a moment. I want you to hear something, and I'll show it to you in just a minute. So we are in chapter 3. Eliashib, the high priest, and his fellow priest, they rebuilt the sheep gate. The men of Jericho built the adjoining section, and Zachar built next to them. The fish gate was rebuilt by the sons of Hassenaah. Meremoth repaired the next section. Next to him, Meshullam made repairs, and next to him, Zadok also made repairs. The next section was repaired by the men of Tekoa, but their nobles would not put their shoulders to the work under their supervisors. So there were a couple of people who said, I'm not too good to be doing that stuff. The Jeshanah gate was repaired by Joiada and Meshullam. Next to them, repairs were made by men from Gibeon and Mizpah. Uzziel, one of the goldsmiths, repaired the next section. Hananiah, one of the perfume makers, made repairs next to that. Reviah, ruler of a half-district of Jerusalem, repaired the next section. Adjoining this, Hajjah made repairs opposite his house. Hattush made repairs next to him. Malchijah and Hashub repaired another section at the Tower of Ovens. Shallum, son of Halohesh, ruler of a half-district of Jerusalem, repaired the next section with the help of his daughters. The valley gate was repaired by Hanan and the residents of Zanoah. The dung gate was repaired by Malchijah, ruler of the district of Beth Hakerem. The fountain gate was repaired by Shallum, ruler of the district of Mizpah. Beyond him, Nehemiah, son of Azbak, ruler of a half-district of Beth Zur, made repairs to a point opposite the tombs of David. Are you getting the gist that Nehemiah was a very detailed guy? He happened to mention that some used their daughters because they didn't have any sons. He used his daughters to help build. Goldsmiths, what do they know about building a wall? Nothing. But they were next to them. In fact, can we go to the next slide if somebody hit that button, please? Sure. I want to show you something. As I was looking at the scriptures there, you'll see that there were goldsmiths, there were servants and merchants building the wall. They were servants. They're vendors. Were building the wall. Priests, Eliashib and the high priest were building the fish gate or whatever. Perfume makers, now we can imagine what a perfume maker, they were dealing with chemicals and perfumes and colognes and spices and all that. Perfume makers, what do they know about building the wall? And the one that used his daughters, and it goes on and on and on. All the families together built the wall. Up on the top, you'll see it says next to them, next to them, next to them. Not in opposition, they were working next to each other. We will build with each other, we will build side by side next to each other. They built together. You see, in most churches you'll find, and we are no different than any other church, we find a nucleus of people that do everything. My goodness, they almost live here. We ought to get cots back here so they can get a rest before, because they're going to be back. We walk out the door and say, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Here we go again. And so there's a nucleus of people that work together. I ask the question, why? Why just a small people? Why aren't we all working? Why aren't we? Why aren't we working next to each other? Where's the camaraderie, the unity to work together? I'll get this. I don't know anything about building, but I'm going to do that. I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about streaming, but if you show me, I'll figure it out. I don't know anything about slides, but thank God we have somebody that knows how to do that. I don't know anything about all this stuff, but we just do it. Because it's there, next to them, and next to them, and next to them. And that's what I want to see in our congregation. And I see it so clear that we can be just like Nehemiah building the wall and say, okay, let's go. And that's what they did. And it says that they were taunted and ridiculed by their enemies, saying, oh, are you going to build it in a day? Even the foxes will run across what you built and it will crumble. You'll never get this built. You don't have the capacity. You don't have it, is what they taunted. And they said, oh, Lord, I pray that you would hear us today. I pray that you would see the hope in our hearts and the faith we have to build the wall. Be with us in front of our enemy, in the presence of our enemies. Give our faith to build. And they built, and it says, with all their heart. And actually, folks, that's the sermon. That was it. Okay, it's not time to eat yet. Wait. I know. They said, what's the catch, Bill? I know there's a catch here. Something happened this week as I was preparing the sermon. Something happened. And it was beyond what I could ever imagine happened to me today. It was almost like it fell out of the sky, kind of, sort of. So let me share. I got to share with you. It's a testimony. I have a vision. You all know I do. I've said it over and over again. I have a vision, and it's a big vision. And I know I dream big. And look at the sign. I dream big. I look at the sign and say, let's get a $12,000 sign up there. And everybody goes, what? Have you lost your mind? Yeah. No. And we did it, didn't we? Because we did it with all our hearts. Because we're that kind of people. We do it with all our hearts. Yeah. So I have a vision. And here's my vision. I'm going to share it with you. It's not official, and you've got to go through the right proper channels. I just got to share as your spiritual leader of this church, this congregation. I have to share with you what I have in my heart. I have a vision of a sanctuary. All right. I love this one room does everything, but I have a vision of a sanctuary. Not bigger, because I don't think we're going to see a lot of big growth in-house, because most people are streaming online. But I see a sanctuary where we can go and worship, like worship in the church, and then party in here, do the social stuff we do, bingo, karaoke, and everything. Why not have like a 100-seat sanctuary that we can go to separately? Can we do it tomorrow? Absolutely not. But we can do it in the next couple of years. I don't want to live from one Hallmark holiday to the next. What are we going to do for Father's Day? Now what are we going to do for Labor Day? I want to work towards a big vision. I want to see something. And I see it for us. Where we can come into a place that is set apart for worship. That's ordained for worship. And we could come together, have concerts. I have a vision. Let me tell you this. In our congregation, we are 75% of the LGBTQ community, correct? Right. Just about that 75, 50%, I don't know. I haven't done a number, but it's a large portion. Every year, we do Pride Interfaith service at a different church because they have more accommodations than we do. Why can't we have it in our church? Because most of the choir is us. Ashley leads the choir. I play the piano for the choir. And we pass one mic to each other to sing a solo. I'm thinking, why aren't we doing it here?
Next year.
I want a sanctuary. I believe we can do it. I don't have all the money and I don't have the details. And it's way past my bank account, and I'm sure it's way past your bank account. Absolutely. But I have a dream and I have a vision that we can do something and leave it for the generations to follow us. To have a place of worship and a place of fellowship, where this could be a fellowship hall for all the different things, and we don't run Chris ragged, having to set up chairs and tables every time we have a different function. Yes, I have a dream and a vision that we don't find a plate of food on Celebration Sunday sitting on the altar. No. I have a vision that we don't do twerking in the sanctuary. We have fun and dance and everything and have a blast. I love it. In the fellowship hall. And a separate sanctuary. So anyway, I was telling this to Diane and Jackie. We went to lunch. And I'm sorry if I'm bringing your name up in my sermon, but she says okay. All right. So Jackie is a very pragmatic person. And she challenges me. And she said, where's the plan? I said, I told you the plan. A sanctuary. She goes, no, Mel, that's a vision. Where's the plan? And so what I did was, she said, well, I'm just going to stop talking. I said, no, keep on. I have a vision, where's the plan? So we came over here to walk, and I walked the whole perimeter. I felt like Nehemiah walked the whole perimeter of this building, all the way around the fence, didn't I? Yeah. All the way around, looking at everything. Taking pictures. Walked in here and we were standing there, and we got off the conversation. It doesn't matter. But anyway, I said, what's that box up there? And she reached for it, and when she did, on the other side something fell. Whoops. So we ran around the other side to see what fell. And as we're standing there, it was not anything. It was just a little box. It's fine. All of a sudden, I looked down at the desk, and I saw this. We paid $2,000 last year to get an engineering design to tell us if we could even possibly put a sanctuary on this property. It's right here. And Jackie says, what is that? I said, that's the plan. And she says, where did it come from? And I went, it just fell on the desk. True story. I'm not making this up. I know pastors can No, it really happened that way. That thing fell on the desk. And I said, there's the plan. And I folded it out and we looked at the different things that we could do here. Again, we're not looking for a 150-seat sanctuary. I don't think we'd fill it. Maybe we could, but I don't want to work towards that. I just want a sanctuary like this. Bigger with the stage, and I see Rodney with his organ, and maybe a grand piano on this other side, and the slides up, 2 slides. We need 2 slides up because it's just so big, and we are just enjoying ourselves in worship. We walk out the door and we come into fellowship hall and we have Celebration Sunday. Yeah. That's what I see. Now I don't know when, and of course we have to go through the council to vote any kind of fundraiser. I know, but you at least know my vision. At least you know what I see in you as a congregation. Let me put that down. What I see in all of us and what this congregation can do. I believe it, and we can work with all of our hearts to see it done. To grab a brick. Whether I know what to do with this brick is another story, and it's not a brick, it's a paver. But I know this. If we work with all our hearts, we can do this. To grab this little thing and take it home, and every time a little extra money comes, throw it in there. I don't know how long it'll last. But this I know, Bob, we can build this sanctuary on this property. The parking, we'll figure it out. God will figure it out for us. This is the vision. This is what I see. Nehemiah building the wall with all our hearts. You've heard my heart today. Focus in from beginning to the end. See what God would do when we join together with all our hearts. Amen. Amen.